Good morning and welcome to ARAC 2014, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Kevin Turner from Real Estate Uncut, and this is the first of our live streams. We're coming out to you across the internet, as I said, live from the Theaterette here at ARAC. As the crowds start to move on in, folks, if you want to grab your coffee, come in and join us because our panel session will start in just a minute or two. The three people on stage, let me introduce them to you. Firstly, on my extreme right is Sherrie Storor from Place New Farm. Sherrie is driven by an absolute burning desire to be the best agent in the real estate business, and that's what she told us on a recent episode of Insights to Success. She uses the latest in software, internet research, social media, email and text messaging to contact a strong database and has a regular contact with them. And she shared that with us in one of the Insights to Success episodes on behalf of Domain. This personal VIP service is what sets Sherrie apart, and being involved in more than 3,000 real estate transactions so far in her impressive career as a prestige property specialist. Our first panellist is Sherrie Storor from Place New Farm. Sitting beside Sherrie, I guess the thorn between two roses, is Matt Lancashire, who is the principal of Ray White at New Farm. Matt's significant achievements are many, but just to give you a bit of an example, he is in Ray White's top 100% international performers and has been since 2010. He is one of their elite performers. He's won that award from 2009 right through to the current year. He is the #1 Courier Mail performer 2011-2013. He sold over $60 million worth of property in 2013. He's the #1 selling principal and loved the business so much that he actually bought Ray White New Farm about 18 months ago. Our second panellist is Matt Lancashire. And finally, Carmen Briggs from Harcourts at Inner West, servicing the Gap and Ashgrove in the western suburbs of Brisbane. Carmen joined Harcourts in 2005 and is now the principal and business owner of Harcourts Inner West. Carmen's been a multi-award winner within the group, and only last Wednesday, I think it was Carmen, wasn't it? Last Wednesday, she was named as being the #4 agent in Australia and certainly #1 in Queensland, and a fabulous achievement. So I know we're going to get a lot from these folks as we stream this live to you. In fact, we've got viewers all over Australia and through into New Zealand as we stream this live. Folks, come on in. Plenty of seats here. You can sit down and join us. We will be opening up for questions a little bit later, but please come in, feel free to sit down and listen to what our panellists have to say. Guys, I just want to open it up, if I could, maybe I might start with you, Sherrie, and just ask you about the strategies that you've put into your business in the last 12 months to actually improve your market share.
Sure. Well, I guess, Kevin, probably the biggest thing, is the mic on? Yes. I guess probably one of the biggest strategies...
We might use one of the handheld mics, I think.
Thanks, Kevin. I guess one of the biggest differences that has really, impacted my business has been the use of social media. So I've really embraced that, and I was lucky enough the other day to listen to an ex-employee of Facebook, and they were telling me that 12 million Australians are on the site. So I just thought, look, if you're not on there and you're not utilising that, you're really quite crazy. So I think that was probably one of the major ones. The second one was just really further implementing my CRM program, putting in a lot of activity list systems, procedures, and really just getting strength within my EBU and what in each individual, team member and what their role is.
You use a lot of video as well, Sherrie, don't you?
I'm a very, very big believer in video, right from the open home to, the listing presentation. So a video is very, very important.
Matt, what about you? What have you put into your business in the last 12 months to actually improve your market share?
My biggest strategy that I've implemented is definitely my vendor paid advertising. I'm a massive advocate of it. I made a decision a few years ago to only pitch half...
Might just get you to pick that up a bit,
Sorry,
mate. That's it.
I made a massive commitment to improving everything, so whether it be online and also in the paper. So my drive was to be the #1 Courier Mail advertiser, and just from doing that alone over the last 12 months, the numbers that have gone through my open homes and the number of sellers that have come through, straight off the back of that, it's been a huge improvement.
Well, certainly #1 advertiser in the Courier Mail. Do you find, Matt, when you're going to get a listing that people, because of your high profile, that they expect to be paying vendor paid?
Not necessarily. Like, it's still a big challenge for me to get the vendor paid advertising. I don't think anyone has my average campaign at the moment's around 20,000. So no one really knows that they have to spend $20,000 before I come in the front door. So I still get all the same objections that everyone else does. I think I really believe in the products that I sell. Yep. And that sort of comes across in my presentations. I
know you're also a big believer in online as well, and you're a good user on Domain. Yep. Are you finding that's improving your inquiry levels?
Absolutely. You just don't know where your buyer's going to come from, whether they see a sign out the front of the house, whether it's online, whether it's in the paper. But what we found is, even with all of our online, the number of inquiries that we're getting at the moment through, if we do a Premier Plus or something like that, then the amount of inquiries that we're getting through those portals have substantially increased.
Welcome to those folks who've just joined us here in the theaterette. People still streaming in, coming in from the main session. We're streaming live across the internet, of course, and noticing that we're getting more and more people coming and joining us throughout Australia and New Zealand. By way of introduction, this is a special panel session. We're talking to three leading performers on behalf of Domain Insights, and these are people who are telling us about their growth strategies. For those of you who have just joined us, by way of introduction, Sherrie Storor from A Place at New Farm, also Matt Lancashire from Ray White at New Farm, and Carmen Briggs from Harcourts Inner West. Carmen, we might just move to you, if I could, and ask you the same question. What is it you've done in the last 12 months to improve your market share?
Over the last 12 months, I've found that I'm spending more time working with sellers that really want to listen to what I have to say, and educating them more than I've ever done before. So sometimes during my first meeting, it can be 2 to 3 hours of just relationship-based discussion about them and the market. And I'm finding the investment of time that I'm making up front is certainly helping me with my average days on the market, and also positioning those sellers in a place where it's going to be easy for them to make a decision at the time.
Help me a little bit with that conversation that you have. You said it's a conversation to get them to more buy into the process. But what about the work leading up to before you even get there?
When I have a lead that I know is preparing to go to the market and I have an opportunity to present to them, I educate them with what's on the market at the moment. So I send them personal invitations to all of the different open homes, even if they're not my open homes, because I just feel the more houses they can see and the more agents they can see before I get in front of them is only going to help me close the business as well as position them correctly.
I want to pick up with all three of you in just a moment too, and we'll talk about that moment when you've actually listed the property and how you actually get the mindset right for the seller. We'll come to that in just a moment. But before I do, I just want to, maybe if we go back to Sherrie again, and I'll ask you the question about, we've heard a lot about being the trusted advisor. At what stage do you think, Sherrie, you need to set yourself up so that you can become the trusted advisor to the seller?
Immediately.
And how do you go about doing it? Yeah.
Well, I think as soon as you meet somebody, as soon as they call you, as soon as you get an email, that is the opportunity in order to gain their trust, and for you to obviously, either sell their property or sell them a property. So, it's just really important that, A, you do what you say you're going to do, that you follow things up, don't leave until you've done that. Show your point of difference. I mean, I was sitting with a pipeline seller yesterday, and they sort of said to me, oh, look, we are looking to sell, but we are going to be interviewing lots of agents, and they're all the same. Well, we kind of blew him out of the water, and yes, he's listed his property now. So, we just really have to set apart our biggest point of differences. And for me, as you talked about before, I use video for that.
Matt, what about you, becoming the trusted advisor?
I think it completely comes down to rapport. From the moment that they call you, what you do and how you act and how your follow-up is really, really important. So, for example, if someone calls and says, Matt, I want you to come around and sell my house, the processes that we put in place from that moment, so the pre-list kit that goes out, the text, the touch base to say, look, we've got the appointment this afternoon, really looking forward to it. Sending much, and I got a lot out of what James Tosterman just did. It's the very similar process to that, sending them sales of things that you've done. And just with our pre-listing kit, it just gives them a snapshot of who we are and what we do before we even get there.
But those things you're talking about there, the pre-listing kit and, comparative sales and so on, doesn't every agent do that?
You'd be surprised, I think.
That's the question I'm asking you.
I think that the quality is getting better as well, and I think it's so. For example, if someone at my business, we get a lot of job applications, and I won't even look at an application that doesn't have a cover letter. So if you're going and you're doing it in-house, photocopied, terrible stock paper, and just generic, I think that's going to go to the bottom of the pile. So what we do is we have implemented a really red-hot one, which is we get it professionally printed, and it's all of the information is there is really accurate and up to date.
Carmen, what about you in your business? I know Harcourts are very strong on this type of quality printed material. Do you use something that's generic, or do you have your own pre-listing kit?
I certainly use the Harcourts framework as part of the foundation of the material that I send out, but I've customised that to suit me in the way I present to my sellers. So it is certainly using that framework.
Okay. Let's, staying with you if I could just for a moment, talking about maximising productivity, and I know this is getting more and more out of the day. I sometimes wonder, we talk about becoming an attraction agent, but we end up having to work almost 24/7. What are the things that you do to increase your productivity without having to work 24/7?
I'm highly organised and I have an amazing capacity to just take on more and more. So what I do is I'm very process orientated, and with my business unit, everybody is very clear about whose responsibility is whom. And for example, yesterday when we left the office, everybody knows exactly where we are with every listing, what communication has gone out to both buyers and sellers. So if somebody wasn't there on Monday, we can just pick it up and run with it. I certainly focus on very productive activities, and any repetitious activities that doesn't need that human interface is certainly either executed by another person, or I use social media or different information technology products to make that more automated.
How systemised are you, Matt, in your business?
Very systemised. Everything, we've got checklists for everything, we've got a strategy for everything, everyone knows their place, everyone knows their roles. Predominantly my roles are just dollar productive activity, so I won't go and do a building and pest inspection. I'll go to evaluation, but I won't do a building and pest. I'll do all second inspections, I won't do the first inspections. I'll do most of the open homes, but the team will do the follow-up with me, and anyone that has more than a passing interest, I'll follow it up. So everything that I do is all dollar productive. To go back to what you said about how do you do it more effectively without working the hours, I think inevitably in this business you have to work the hours, and quite regularly I'm the one locking the office at night time and first there in the morning. And
has that always been the way, even before you owned the office?
Yeah, it was. But all the people, there's a direct correlation with all the people that are working in my office. All the ones that are making good income are the ones that are working hard, and they're late, they're early, working on Sundays. I can judge how people's months are going to be. I've got cars in the car park on Sundays. So I don't think there's any way, especially in your first few years of real estate, I don't think there's any way around the hard work. So you just need to put the time into it.
Okay. Let's keep the microphone, if you could for a moment, Matt. I want to ask you the question about that point in time when you've secured the listing. And let's hypothetically say the property is going to go to auction. What steps do you go through to get the mindset of the seller right to actually sell the property?
So basically, as soon as we've got the 22A signed and we're ready to go, I call a meeting which is called the 24-hour meeting. So we basically go and we sit down about all the things that can railroad a campaign throughout it. So, for example, we talk about other agents and them calling. But look, it's really important when the market gets really tight and stock becomes tight. Lots of other agents will make the call, will send the letter, will send their sales, and try and manipulate that, which is fine. But you've just got to be on top of that. You also talk to them. 90% of my properties go to auction, so we talk about the importance of not talking price to anyone, not your neighbours, not your family, not your friends, no one, because as soon as you leak that price, you may as well call the auction off. That's another really important one. And then also talking to them about how there's going to be an increase of communication. I speak to my clients twice a day, every day, without fail, and 9 times out of 10 I speak to them far more than that.
Well, one of the key things, though, in this conversation, well, firstly, let me ask you, is there an agenda to that conversation?
Oh, absolutely.
And when do you call it? You said 24 hours. 24 hours
after listing.
After the listing.
Yeah.
Why do you leave it 24 hours?
Because, they're pretty excited in the first 24 hours, and basically you don't want to, when you're signing it up and you're listing it there, you don't want to then go into that. You want to just give it the time, get all the, and I usually go over with the first draft of marketing as well, the internet text, and so it's a really structured conversation. I think if you do it there on the spot, it might take the fun out of the listing.
At what stage do you talk about the fact that they're going to get offers and how seriously they should look at those?
Yeah, we do talk about when, especially with tight market, we do talk about a lot of the buyers have been looking in the market for a lot longer than they've been on the market. So we do have that conversation with them. But I'm also a realist as well, and I don't breathe down their neck saying the first offer is the best offer, because it might not be. But the one thing is they just need to know that not to discount early offers. They need to look at every offer on its merits.
I can see you shaking your head there, Carmen. You agree with that concept? And tell me, before we go to Sherrie, just tell me how you handle that meeting.
I normally cover that off during my listing presentation because, as I said before, my listing presentation can be from 2 to 3 hours. So I certainly talk about different scenarios and other people and their experiences when they've had an offer in that first 10 days and how they felt. And I always ask them, how do you think you might feel in this situation? And then we really run through that scenario. So then when it does arise, we've already been there before, and it's very simple for them to make that decision.
Sherrie, what about you? Tell me about your setup process, after you've phoned Matt's listings, of course, that is.
Well, he keeps calling one of my vendors at the moment. Yeah, I'll look after you, bye. So I guess it all really comes down to, my business really does allow me to work with a various different price range of properties. So it really does come down to what that property is and who is the seller. Are they an investor? Are they an owner-occupier? I would not be too pushy with an investor. Quite often they don't care. It's not their main focus. They just want the money in and out. If it's a property under $1 million, quite honestly, it's in our market at the moment, it might sell within a week, might sell within a couple of days. So I wouldn't spend that much time and energy on it, to be honest with you. I would just literally work the process. And we would have really had a good run-up until we've actually listed that property, and that contact would continue. And my team are really quite integral with that. If it is a more expensive property and it's an auction campaign, then of course it is very, very different. And you do need to, I guess, do the meetings as what Matt has just discussed. But, you know, sit down, give them the reports, give them the feedback, be really open with them after the open homes, you know, have the discussions about the positive and the negative feedback, what the buyers are saying in relation to price. But more importantly, just be honest with them. Otherwise, they're going to say, well, in 4 weeks' time, why isn't the property sold? Why do I have no offers? So you need to just be open with that communication. But more importantly, let them know that you love their property. And that's one thing that I've learnt very much from Judy. You know, if they don't think that you believe in their property, they're not going to continue believing in you.
Sherrie, of course, mentioned Judy there. That's Judy Goodyer, who's in the audience with us. Hi, Judy.
Hi, Judy.
Nice to have you here too. Judy, of course, from Place New Farm as well. And for those of you just joining us on the stream, we're streaming live throughout Australia and New Zealand. And if you've just joined us, this is the panel session with top performers and the introduction, Sherrie Storor on my extreme right, Matt Lancashire and Carmen Briggs. We might stay with you, Sherrie, if I could, just for a moment. Someone moving into, say, a high-profile area where there are lots of high-profile agents, like in your area, for instance, someone moving in, what would you recommend? How should they get a start?
One of the things that I probably wish I would have focused on a little bit earlier was service area. And if you have the ability to be able to financially fund that, so, you know, if you don't, then of course you just make the money and you get by and you do what you have to do until you can afford to do that. But I think the implementation of a service area is very important. Go around, you know, make sure you're out there in the community getting to know people, that you're at the local coffee shops, that you know the right people, that you're doing your networking functions and groups. And, you know, don't give up on that. You know, that's something that you really need to do. I would have to say that I'm very, very blessed, and even just talking with a colleague last night, Matt, you know, he was saying, Sherrie, you know, I've never met anyone who's got such a wide network as you, and that's all through, I think, the last 10, 12 years of just getting to know the local community. So I would have to say they would be the biggest focus points.
Matt, what about you? What would you suggest?
I'm a big believer you've got to fake it till you make it, and it's a lot of my young guys that have come into the office now, I sit them all down and I just say, look, in order to make it in this industry, you need to make more calls than anyone else. So we work on 50 to 80 connects a day. So what I do is I give them my old inspection lists. And it's really interesting. I gave one new guy an old inspection list from 7 years ago. And he uncovered a seller on his first day, on his first calling session, which he's done a listing presentation, got an auction on his first week of being in real estate. So I think if you're brand new in the industry, I think it's really important that whether you someone's generous enough to give you the old inspection list, because 9 times out of 10 there's 3 reasons why why people are going through open homes. 1, they're a buyer looking to buy. 2, they're a seller interviewing. And 3, they're looking for ideas which will become future sellers anyway. And you just need to uncover why they're going through. And I can easily say that close to 60% of my business would come through my open home. So if you're new, see if you can get a new old inspection list off someone else or buy them. I'd actually buy them.
Yeah. Some great advice coming from our top achievers, the top achievers panel coming to you, of course, with the compliments of Domain Insights. And Carmen, we might just move to you a similar question about getting, establishing yourself in a new market. What do you do?
I certainly agree with what's been said here, but what I do with my new starters is we certainly work on the community feel and get as much involved as we can in different volunteer activities within the community. And at the moment we're just sponsoring the farmers market, which is just starting up in the Gap. And that's really interesting because it's going to be non-profit and everything that comes out of that is going to go to the homeless. So certainly for me, from a branding perspective and a personal profiling perspective, that's really true, and everybody really enjoys that sort of community work. I also believe very big on profiling, so you have to invest in your profile, and whether you do that through print media or whether you do that within the local area, I think it both works. You have to really make sure you're doing a bit of everything.
I want to pose one last question before we round this broadcast up, and I just want to quickly run on. We'll stay with you, Carmen, if we could, then move along. What are the things that you're going to be putting into your business in the next 12 months that will actually accelerate it to another level? What plans have you got?
I've been selling in my area for nearly 9 years, and when I look at my database, I do use it very effectively. But one thing when I was going through my business planning is I just feel that although I keep in touch with my past buyers and sellers, I'm really not in tune with where they are with their cycle. So I'm not sure whether they're thinking of buying an investment property or whether they're thinking of changing their home. So I'm really going to make sure the quality of communication I have with them over this next quarter is going to be able to give me the information of how I can position them into either making that decision this year or knowing when they are going to make that decision.
Matt, what about you?
We've got a really strong focus on vendor-paid advertising at the moment, and not just my office, but as a group at Ray White, there's a real push on that, which I can honestly say it's changed my business. The other thing that we're really working on as well is much what Sherrie does very well is social media. So I've just employed someone that's full-time that does all of our social media stuff, and I think that's going to really we need it to target the right people, but I think that's one of the big things that will change in the next 6 months.
Sherrie, what about you? What surprises have you got for us?
Of course, I think I'm going to be a lot smarter with my personal marketing dollars, I suppose, for myself and building my profile, and I will be spending that a lot more on social media and just really throwing some great parties for my clients, because 80% of your business comes from 20%, as they say. I will be further implementing my CRM and really getting out there into the database and, of course, working the service area.
Wonderful. Look, on that note, I noticed that people are starting to move back into the presentation at AREC. This broadcast has come to you, of course, with the compliments of Domain Insights. There's plenty of opportunities for you to get insights just like this in the series, so we'd encourage you to subscribe to that. I want to thank our panellists, firstly to Sherrie Storor. Sherrie, thank you for being with us. It's always great to have you on stage.
Thanks, Kevin.
Enjoy working with you so much. So too with Matt Lancashire. Matt, thank you. And Carmen, thank you very much for your time as well. Thank you for being with us too. We're going to come back at lunchtime, and we've got a number of great real estate agents we're going to introduce to you as we come to you live on this stream, and we'll be doing it from the Domain stand right here at AREC. And until then, I'm Kevin Turner. All the best, and we'll see you when we come back. Thank you.